Hey everybody, this is Comic Burrito, an interview. And we're here with Scott Snyder.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Welcome.
Good, how are you?
I'm good.
Awesome.
It's good to talk to you finally. I appreciate you. I saw you do a piece with Rodney Barnes on Philadelphia, which is a book I love. And I saw you picked up Nocterra. I really appreciate it. So figured it would be a good opportunity to come on and say hi.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. Absolutely.
Speaking of Nocterra, there we go.
Oh, there we go.
So that's coming out this Wednesday. Do you want to give people who may have somehow missed it, which is ridiculous, but in case you have, like a synopsis of what they can expect from it and kind of the world and such?
Yeah, sure. Well, so it imagines like a world. It imagines that it's sort of the high concept of it is what if tomorrow this darkness falls over the earth. It stops sunlight from hitting the planet, and it changes any living organism that stays in the dark unlit for more than 10 hours or so into a monster called a shade. So it's this big high-octane horror series that follows the main character. Her name is Val Riggs, and she's a trucker in this world. They call them ferrymen. It's 13 years after this darkness has fallen. They call it the big PM, like AM and PM, and it's 13 PM, which is 13 years after the fall of the dark. And so she carries people and goods from outpost to outpost. It's these like lit up sort of fortresses that people are still living in. And she takes on a really strange passenger one day, and it starts this big adventure that kicks off our series. So it's a lot of fun. Tony Daniel, who's a friend for a long time, he was on Batman when I started on Detective, and then we swapped when the New 52 happened, and I was like terrified to take on both Detective and then Batman, and he was quite a good friend about how to handle the pressure, and we made the Joker stuff up about him cutting off his face together. So there was a lot of bonding over gross, fun, nerve-wracking stuff. And his art on this, I think, is his best of his career. He thinks so too. And we have Tomeo Mori on colors, who is the DC superstar. He does Batman, all kinds of stuff, and he makes these like really dark landscapes look really dazzlingly colorful in their own ways. And even Darren Bennett, who does lettering too, he's like a artist with lettering. He worked with me on a bunch of stuff over the years, couple special issues that really required a lot of acrobatic lettering with Batman 44, where there was like text behind the art, and then was part of the art, different fonts, because it was all about newspaper articles and different things. So anyway, the point is, it's a team I really love. They're all people, we all really like working together. We plan on doing it for a long time on this book. And we just wanted to bring something to market that was personal to us. For me, it's about, on the one hand, it's about a darkness that separates everyone and makes us unrecognizable to each other, which is, pretty, a kind of pretty resonant thing in terms of being a dad talking to your kids about the status of things out in the world. And it also touches on stuff for me about, I had a very acute fear of the dark as a kid and didn't realize it at the time, but it was more anxiety and the stuff that led to anxiety and depression later. And that idea of the darkness being a place where all your worst fears, don't just seem possible, but seem probable and immediate. And your body reacts to that, making you feel like there's no hope and there's no light. It has a real visceral feel, this book, for me. And Tony brought a lot to it too, from his own personal life. His daughters were a big influence on Val and some of his cultural background. So there's a lot of both of us in the DNA of this book. And we want it to be like the big-fisted, big-engined kind of explosive blast of comic book fun and heart that launches us back into the indie world and our creator-owned stuff, because we're both kind of recommitting to doing a lot more creator-owned over the next couple of years. In addition to being supportive of DC and Marvel and still doing stuff there now and then, I really wanted to go out with something that felt like it would be an engine for the rest of the Best Jacket stuff I have planned.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to mention Best Jacket Press is your new publishing label, right?
Yep, that's right.
And
Yeah, Court of Owls was what kind of got me into comics in general, picking up trades and stuff, and going through your series of that. And so when I saw that you were starting your own thing, that's why I had to just I got to get the first one, right? Because
yeah, I appreciate it. It's been crazy. It's been so long. Facebook just today, I was like, I'm not on there much, but I went over there and they were like, share your memories. And it was my first comic book ever. It was this week, 12 years ago. So it was
oh, really?
Yeah, it was a Marvel comic. It was a one shot about the original Human Torch, the robot one with Scott Wegman from Atomic Robot and Atomic Robo and with Janine Schaefer editing and that stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot Adi Granoff did the cover. I remember getting that cover and just being like, oh my God, I'm a real comic person. And my comic shop here, I'm wearing their thing, Fourth World, I had been going there since before I broke in. And so I ran in there. I'm like, oh my, look at this art. I'm a real comic writer. Yeah. They were like, yeah, you still got to pay for your pull list. So very good. They've been with me 10 years plus 15 years. So
how do they feel about that now, making you pay for your own pull list?
Oh, they're so nice to me. I have to trick them into letting me pay for stuff now, but I give them all my comps and stuff that I get still from DC and Image, and that I bring a lot of that over there and sign stuff. And
that's cool.
Excuse me, I'm in there at least twice a week. And Quinn, it's nice because they're really cautious about social distancing, and if I go on a day, during the daytime on a Monday, when there's nobody at at a comic store on a Monday when books come out on Tuesday or Wednesday, and they let him run all over the store and give him lollipops. So I realized it was weird because I was talking to them and they're like, you've done this with every kid. I was like, oh my God, my oldest is 14 years old. I have pictures of him running around the same store. It's family owned. It was like the parents, Chris and Glenn, retired, and now the son, Terrence, runs it. And great place, just anyway, the point is, they're very, very special to me. So
I think there's something really special if you have a local comic book shop that has just amazing. We have one in our town that we go to that just has some really cool people that run it. And like you said, they feel like family when you walk in and they treat you well. And sometimes you have to go 2 or 3 times in a week just to see them.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just plugging in my thing. I think that's it's been an interesting kind of couple years just because, I was so embedded at DC and I loved what I got to do there. And I love what I have coming up there. But sometimes you don't see different angles on the industry and that stuff, especially when you're really neck deep in superhero stuff, just because it's such a grind in a good way, but in a way that you don't really get to come up for air a lot, especially on double ship books or events and that stuff, because there's just so much to manage constantly. And being outside of it now, and also the regime change there, Marie Javins, who's the editor-in-chief, that she's one of my closest friends in life, but also at DC she was my editor on along with the Tay Taylor and Mark Doyle and a lot of great people, Andrew Marino on but she was the head, the overseer on Metal, on Justice League, and on Death Metal. She edited it pretty exclusively with Andrew. So seeing the regime over there now, I just love the feeling and the tone, and it's I'm really excited. They're taking different risks, but the big thing that I was trying to say that I'm sorry, I got lost in the weeds for a second, is that the risks that they're taking and the things that they're thinking about have also opened my eyes to the different ways that I think the industry can, benefit from seeing different areas as less competitive with each other and more complementary, and looking at ways that digital can support print, looking at ways that trades and floppies can work better together, looking at ways that we can get people excited through different kinds of collaborations, about characters. And one of the things that, like you were just saying, I think, with Best Jacket it's a lot of that thinking, the ability to say, with each partner, where do you think this book is going to go best? At Image, at DC or wherever, like, I mean, Black Label or at, anywhere. So there's a lot of, allows me to be nimble and to get outside of it and see kind of the entire landscape and be able to challenge myself in new ways. So I'm really excited about it. I just feel like super invigorated this year. I have more work than I've ever had by far, but I go to bed happy with it. So it's good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, cool. So with obviously you have a lot of work under your belt, and you've done. We could fill a box with how much we love from what you've done. Have you found?
I literally have.
Yeah, Nick literally has there's a box.
And I finally gave up.
Wow.
I finally gave up.
I see
There's more.
Can I write that many issues? It's crazy. I can't even.
No, I didn't even pull Justice League. I left that all down there. So there's 40 more issues that I don't even have in there.
Well, thank you. I can't thank you. But the one thing, the comic shop thing too, is just that comic shops to me, like, they're such lifeblood of the industry, but also what people I think are realizing is that they're experiential. You go there, the joy of like being a comic book fan in terms of a shop is like, it's like going to Cheers or like a sports bar if you're a sports fan, where you know the people and that's a huge part of it for me. Where
one of my favorite. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say like that. The function and the utility of that is irreplaceable, and I think the collectability of comics is something that's important for print as well, and to rethink some of that stuff. Because you see it sometimes go the wrong way with speculator market or with variants in ways that can become excessive and destabilizing. But I think there are ways of thinking about print with Best Jack, and I'm trying to think about it a lot, like how to do print in a way that when the editions come out, they have whether they're sometimes floppies, but most often with the collected, do we do things that are oversized issues that have extra back matter? Do we do collected editions that have really exclusive stuff to make the print really sit as something special, as opposed to what the digital experience will be like, as opposed to what the the different formats will read like. So yeah, we think a lot. I don't know. It's sorry to go off on a thing, but it's a lot. It's really on my head a lot lately. Just how to think about the different ways in which these things, from everything from comicsology and webtoon and the idea of the reading experience my kids really seek out, and the reading experience of people my age and that have grown up with comics as collectability, in addition to being immersive and and big interwoven stories. How do you make all that work together, at least not work against each other in a way that could benefit everybody? I mean, that's the hope, in different driving in different lanes that way.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, that's a good idea of seeing each experience and not trying to make digital like physical, and not trying to make trade like floppy, because they are different readers and you're consuming them in a completely different way. So it makes sense to try and figure out the best way to do each.
Yeah, I'm always curious. I'm curious about it. I mean, I don't know the answer either, but I think really differentiating print from digital, differentiating trade from print, differentiating, those things, so that you're not thinking of them as competitive, because they're different. They serve different needs, even if the core skeletal matter and the story elements are the same. That the experience of each one and the kind of aura of each one really is different from one another, and maximizes the potential in each place to attract the kinds of fans that are really seeking out that particular kind of reading experience.
Yeah. Just
that. So none of it's. I don't mean to make it sound commercial and crass, because it's not that way in my head. It's more like thinking about, and a lot of it comes from an experience at DC over the years. I mean, and a lot of things that I thought were good ideas, and a lot of things that I felt were hard to watch. Like, just putting books sometimes into the direct market that would have benefited from being digital first, or seeing books, get a bajillion covers that, we're going to wind up killing it eventually. Or seeing, just all of that, like seeing talent used here instead of there, different ways, all of it. Like, So coming out of that, it's almost like being outside the maw of it for a minute, getting a moment to think as you're making books with creative partners that all want to try new things.
Yeah.
And even though I haven't announced, or I'm not really supposed to be talking about the books that we're not, other than Chain, which is the one that we announced is coming out next at Image. There's a whole slew of there's a whole slew of stuff that I've been working on with different group of partners for different places for 2-3 years. So you can piece it together from stuff people post, but for me, it really will be a lot of fun come later 2021 to start to show it off when it's all ready, it's all together, and be like, this is everything over the next couple of years that I'm going to be working on.
So I know you kind of have lightly treaded the water on talking about this. With Best Jacket, are you just going to kind of find like the best company to release stuff with then? Yeah,
that's the goal. I mean, like, Image has been amazing to me. I love them. I love, Eric and Robert and everybody there. They have an incredible team, and I plan on having a real footprint there as long as they'll have me. Like we said, I already have Nocterra, Undiscovered Country, Witches, and we're bringing back Witches, and Chain, which is coming out right. And Chain, which is coming out at the end of this year with Ariella Cristantina, really different kind of book, but really dark and fun. So I mean, that's more books than I ever had at one time for the most part at DC. But I do want to be able to be nimble and be able to commit books to different places based on what my partners want to do as well. So, if I'm working with an artist and they're like, what I'd really like to do is release this ourselves through Kickstarter, or what if we do this one in a way that we do it as a book, because a couple of the things have prose elements, or what if we try and do this serialized digitally and then print, and then we look around, what if we do this with a company that will help us be able to help support books and create a line for us so I'm trying to explore all these things at once and sort of see what the best ways of putting each book out organically with that creative team is based on their needs, because just one of the things I'd say too is like there's hardly anything, there's nothing, I have no complaints about Image at all. I love them, but for up and coming creators, I think there's so many exciting companies out there too. This isn't necessarily for me or places that I'm going, but just to give you an example of like, working with Skybound as opposed to Image, there's a whole slew of opportunities that comes with them because they have a whole ecosystem of connections and stuff. But there's also kind of a partnership that goes with the ancillary rights, right? If you go to a place like Boom, there's a different deal. You go to a place like Black Label, there's a different deal. You decide to do it yourself, completely digital, and release it through your own website. Or if you go to Amazon Comixology, do it there. There are different deals everywhere. So the fun of it is, and the excitement of it is, being able to look at each thing, look at bundles of things, and say what things fit where the best, with the partner, the creative partners, and let them decide with me. So all of it feels like collaborative in that regard, which is a lot of fun.
Are you going to, at least in the beginning, are you the sole writer for Best Jacket, or are you bringing in other writers as well? Or
that's the plan. My real hope is by spring, summer, like summer when we start really getting into more of the books that we're going to be doing over the next couple of years. Mm-hmm. There's a more tangible plan in terms of also supporting other books coming out by funding page rates and taking some kind of really minimal kickback, like some 2% kind of kickback eventually, in case the whole idea would be to at most break even put a cap on what we could make from it past the initial investment. But the idea would be able to not publish the books physically ourselves, because I don't have that capability, to be able to help people make books, like, so that then they could take to a place like Image if that's where they want to go, or Boom, or whatever, and then have it sort of under the Best Jacket label that way, where we help promote it. We have our own, I have my own publicist who lined up for later in the year, all that stuff. So it would be a partnership with whatever they wind up, but we'd be making it, creating the publicity for it, creating the buzz, helping them just financially so that they have the page rates, and then wherever they want to go, that's up to them. I mean, my goal with that would really be to, I mean, it goes back to the teaching. I mean, I love seeing new people come in and do better than I could do or do things I can't do creatively and make me up my game and try different things. I mean, the teaching, that was the whole purpose of being at DC, doing that. And then I did it for years before that, all kinds of, I did it like, all different colleges from Columbia and NYU to one out here where I live, like in more rural and everywhere, teaching comics. But the fun of that was always that it keeps you young. For me, it's bringing people in who make the industry more exciting. And I learned more from them than they learned from me, but it was an honor to have so many people and that's come through that thing, that the series of classes from James Tynan to Marguerite Bennett, Vita Ayala, even Matt Rosenberg was in it for a bit, but Amy Chu, and just now Phil Johnson, who's doing Superman, and Mike Morisi, who did the plot. And it's like I look around and I'm like, man, I am lucky to have learned from them when they were in the class and seen their work and, at all been involved in any way with them. So the goal with Best Jacket in that regard is to be able to do it in a more tangible, material way by helping with page rates and things like that, so people can get books up off the ground, But that's
facilitate it becoming a real thing. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's still in the very, like, I have to find a good way of discovering work, and I have to find a good way. I have to create some layers between myself and that a little bit to be able to make sure that I have some people that are working with me editorially, and I want to make sure there's a way to find stuff that's fair and exciting, but also really, objective and all that stuff too, in terms of, just, I don't want to just publish my friends, that stuff too. Mm-hmm. As much as I do want to do that, because there's so many friends I have who have books that I really want to do, and students and all that stuff. The idea is that, I have to find a good way of doing it. So, but I mean, it's important to me to set it up. So that's the goal.
Nice. When you are writing, you have a pretty good variety of books to pull from. Do you bring a different writing philosophy to the different books, or how you go about actually, like, from the ground up? Do you work the same way from book to book, or do you find yourself writing like Batman differently than you would write something like Nocterra?
Oh yeah, I mean, the goal honestly is to try and do each thing in its own way. So like for Nocterra, I go in, I get the idea, right, and I'm like, I get the idea when my kid was kind of struggling with some of the same fears that I had, and he has issues with anxiety and that stuff too. He sees someone the way I do and all that stuff. It sucks because you're like, this is one part of myself you did not want my kid to get. But it's also, I don't know. There's things about it. There are things about it that I like to think there's an upside to some of it as well. Some of that, but
it's tough in the beginning though. I hear you, because that's what I struggle with the same thing, and I'm worried about my kid. But yeah, no, there's some perspective you get, which is nice.
There is, like, you feel good when you have a perspective on it as a sickness and something when you get through it, and you feel good about yourself for being able to have made it through, and there's a being kind to yourself and an empathy, and I think it comes from some of it too, that I don't know. Anyway,
well, when you can help somebody else, when there's somebody else that you can talk to about it too, and it helps them out, that makes a huge difference in other people's lives too. So
that's a good point. That honestly, that's very true. And I've had friends that have gone through it different times, or friends' kids. So but anyway, when he was going through it, it gave me the idea for the book. And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I want this to be a book that, like, my 14-year-old could read, not my 9-year-old, because that's just too kid-like.
Yeah.
But my 14-year-old who like now sees our movies with me, within reason, like, but he's, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm being too loose. My dad took me to like Die Hard and Terminator and all that stuff. So,
Die Hard was my oldest two boys' first R-rated movie this Christmas.
How old were they?
12 and 14.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that age range, you just decide. You know what I mean? Like Die Hard, we watched it when
it's the first R-rated movie that I know that they've seen.
Right. Well, and then I'm doing a thing like my 9-year-old is obsessed with Logan, right? Obsessed with Wolverine because of the Fortnite crossover. So but the thing is, we make fun of it.
That's awesome.
So like we make fun of this stuff, and then what happens is when he got into Wolverine from Fortnite, then he's like, I want to watch the movies. We watched all the movies except for Logan. Then he's like, I want for Christmas, I'd really like to get some comics. Great. Got him all these I got him the Dark Phoenix saga. I got him like all this Chris Claremont stuff. I got him. They come in like kid editions, also like kid versions with Got him all that. We watched the animated thing. We have an old arcade game. We downloaded the X-Men game. Like no joke. He's all the X-Men. His room, I'll send you a picture. He got statues. He got Wolverine versus the Hulk statue for Christmas.
Awesome.
And so anyway,
I'm jealous of kids these days because that's why I laugh, because I'm like, that's so cool and it's so not fair, because like I had Saturday morning for 30 minutes to feel like my thing was cool.
Oh my God.
And that was it. The rest of the time I was a nerd who thought this was really cool, and now it's in like the most popular video game.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if you had the toys and I had like the Secret Wars figures? I treasure those. I still have my Secret Wars figures because they're the only like, non-ridiculous superhero figures forever from the Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, but so the point I'm trying to make is that like he's too young for it, but I want it to be something my 14-year-old could read. So I kind of zero in on like the tone of what I think it's going to be, what it feels organically to be, right? And I was like, I think Tony and I have been friends a long time. Why don't I approach him, because I know he's coming to the end of this DC stuff. This was over 2 years ago, and then we met at San Diego. Now it'll be three San Diegos ago. This San Diego, so it was like, if you count this one and three, like two ago. Oh yeah, because it was just the news today about San Diego that got it in my head. But yeah, so 2 San Diegos ago we met after we had already talked about doing it and drew some stuff up, being like, yeah, let's really do this. And then we met that February before COVID hit at C2E2 and really got serious about it and started it. And so Tony, the reason I think of him is because his art is muscular and widescreen and has this kind of epic quality and this kinetic, propulsive, heavy-fisted emotionality that I love. It's very, very carved, and I love it for that reason. So that it brings that to the book. And so the idea with this was to go Spielbergian and right up the middle and be like, instead of with some of the other books, the goal is to defy expectations and to challenge myself in ways that really show different sides of my writing and my collaborative partners' art that you've never seen from either of us before. With this one, the fun was to do the opposite and say instead of leaning away from expectations, to try and exceed them by leaning in. And just be like, we're going to make something that's so Saturday morning cartoon, R-rated Saturday morning cartoon. That's like, we love it and we love being in this world, and we're just going to go balls to the wall, fun with it, and make it the best book we can on the stands, and make sure that it's always quality and we have passion for it, but not shy away from the sincere kind of like love of big, fast genre, emotional stuff. So that was the fun. So that's how I kind of figure it out. And then I get into the mode of that writing where I'm like, okay, I get into my stuff. So I'll be like, all right, well, if this is going to feel that way, it's got to hit the ground running, but I want it to be emotional. We'll start with like the day everything happened. I'm going to use narration because I want it to be intimate. You know, like Chain, for example, totally different book. It's about these people that are in this really remote town in Alaska as the world starts falling apart, and they discover this place that might keep them safe. And it's almost like Animal Farm, where they're really everything falls apart between them. And so it has the backdrop of this apocalyptic stuff, but you don't really see it. It's almost like nightmarish, and you hear about it coming, you know? So it's a totally different kind of thing. It's almost like a play. That book, when I'm doing that, for example, I'm like, well, how do I do something I've never tried before? This is an artist I haven't worked with. Her strengths, I've talked to her about what she wants to draw, what she feels good about. Great, we know where we're going to meet. And it goes to the scripting too. The style is with the style that she wants versus the style that Greg likes versus style. I love being adaptable, but the method of writing that book is different than Nocterra entirely, where it's like Nocterra, it's like, okay, what's the stuff I expect? 15 minutes into the movie, an inciting incident. 30 minutes in, they go off on act one. Great, let's do it, but let's do it so well you can't resist it. Even if it's kind of has that familiar echo and you're like, I feel like I've seen this kind of, great. As long as you love it, great. That's Kong Skull Island to me. That's Jurassic Park to me. That's, you know, all that. Those are the movies I love. Like, so let's do it. But with Chain, how do I go against that? So I'm not going to use narration, because narration is, you know, gives you that intimacy, that hand holding, that stuff. I'm going to keep it really spacious and remote. I want you to feel distant and cold. I want you to feel unsettled. You know, I want you to feel like you don't know what's coming. I want you to feel claustrophobic. So yeah, very sparse dialogue, you know, and I'm going to create big landscapes, so I'm going to pace it differently. This book is ongoing. The first arc is 6+ issues. That book is more like a set piece, and the issues are far less dense. So you see what I'm saying? And when you come to Batman, whole different set of priorities, like depending on what the Batman story you're trying to tell is, you know. So that's the fun of it for me is honestly, and the fun of Best Jacket in particular now is like keeping myself young to myself. Like, you know, I'm not in competition with anyone in my mind. I saw that thing that someone was like, writers are your competition, but Greg always teased me about that when I was teaching. It's like, you're training your competition. I'm like, no, I'm not. If I'm doing my job, I'm actually training them to be themselves in such an individuated, singular way that we're not competition at all. In fact, we're all part of one, you know, textured landscape where there's only one, you know, Tom King, there's only one Joel Jones, there's only one Rodney Barnes. Like, you're not going to confuse our writing, so we're not competing with each other. So in that way,
if anything, you're building each other up.
Yeah,
that's always been the goal.
A rising tide lifts all boats. It's just how everybody goes. It's good for everybody.
Exactly. You know, we all have our fights and we all have our things, and you know, I've screwed up at times in terms of, you know, getting lost in my own stuff and all of that stuff too, in terms of, you know, just being I think being overworked, having so much work that I don't get a chance to read as much as I'd like and get out there and talk about as much as I'd like. But I try, you know, to do it. But I think the real thing with that is that at the end of the day, the fun of it is, just like you said, trying to create all of us together a rising tide that lifts all ships in that regard. And so with this, like with your question, it really is about trying to write in ways that make me exciting to myself. I never see other writers as my competition. You know, really, we have playful competitions, sure, like, you know, Donnie and I tease each other, or, you know, like that stuff. But at the end of the day, it really is more like you're in competition with yourself, you know, with your own tics and your habits and your anxieties and your failings, your shortcomings, and trying to do different things and surprise yourself, to me, is the only way through. I mean, the truth is, like, I had at least another, you know, I had many more years, at least 2 years in my head of stories for Batman.
I was like, don't say it. Oh, no.
But with Greg, and then without Greg, like, once he left, I was like, maybe I stay and I do mean, I would never stay and do the main title without him because it just didn't feel right. But
that's fair.
It was almost like I had plenty to stay on Batman in the Bat world for another couple years, just stories I wanted to tell about Scarecrow and about all kinds of different. But at the end of the day, it honestly was just feeling too comfortable. It was feeling too, it felt too. It did. It's you. I mean, like you don't want to. You
don't want to burn out just because you can. Like,
you don't want to be doing it. You don't want to be doing it for once it tips into like I'm doing this because I know I can do it.
Yeah,
you're getting into bad territory. I've been in that position. When I started, when I first became a writer, I worked in prose, and I wrote a short story collection, and I was right at the early 2000s, right before everything crashed in 2007, 2008. And there was a lot of money in that industry and books. And I'd always wanted to be a comic book writer, but I really wanted to be an artist. And so I didn't know how to get into being a comic book writer. And I fell in love also with prose at the time. And I was like, well, I'm going to be like a short story and prose writer, and I'll find my way eventually into that industry if I can, but who knows?
Cool. Yeah.
And I wrote a short story collection, and Random House basically bought the collection, put it out, but also bought a novel that was unwritten afterwards. And the novel, I didn't realize at the time, because I was 20 whatever years old, like 24, 25, that the money is all there when you write the novel and it's approved. It doesn't come with your short stories, really. And so I got into a thing where I wrote the short collection, did well. I was really happy with it. And then I started working on the novel. And then as the economy collapsed in the 2000s, it was clear that the only way that this book was ever going to make the advance that they had to give me if they accepted it was to be like a bestseller, just do really well, And so I fell under this, it was really me, like pressure in my own head about I can't be a failure at this. Like if they see this book taking a loss, I'll never get another gig. And so I was working on this for a couple of years, and this is when I broke into comics on the side, because I was so unhappy working on this book that when the tiniest opportunity came to work in comics, even though it made no practical sense because it paid like nothing. It was, my wife was like, it's the only time I've seen you happy writing in the last couple of years. Like, keep doing it.
Yeah.
But the idea was working for a couple of years under that phalanx of like, I'm doing this because I need to do it, because I'm doing it for money, and I need to, if I'll make it out of this one. And then I'll do something that's more exciting to me on the other side of it, because I loved the book, but it became something that was a monster after I needed to make it. And so that experience has stayed with me in the back of my head forever about like, I never want to be on something ever that I'm doing for comfort, for pressure, and I'm privileged and lucky enough not to have to. I just really would never do that at this point. Meaning I'm not going to like be like, you know what? I know that right now I could go to Marvel and I have some ideas about Wolverine or this. Maybe I go to them because right now, like, that would be a good move after death metal, because I don't want to do that. I want to, the move for me is I haven't been able to do all these stories that I've wanted. I want to challenge myself in new ways. So
no, that's cool. No, that's a good idea. You should definitely, you should follow your heart. Don't go do a Wolverine story.
I mean, I've never pulled a Marvel book, but I would.
Well, I'll go there. I promise. Like, if they'll have me, I love the people there.
I definitely would. Yeah.
There's nobody there I have any issue with. I've been close with, we're all close, and I'd certainly love to go there someday. And I love the characters, but I just want to take at least 1 year where I'm like, just really fully committed. Cause I have another DC project for I have two of them really, but for 2022 and to 2021. So I have like a year before I go back and do some more like a couple isolated things that I just am like, how do I just want to take this time to, to really focus on being a just better kind of traveler in writing, just try new things, be learn more about myself and with my partners in terms of, what can I do? What can we do? What can we do for the books? What can we do in different ways in the industry? All of it,
I mean, it's totally fair. And I'm excited for that too. I mean, if you could do this while also a Wolverine book came out, that'd be great. But this really is fantastic. And
Thanks.
People, I know everyone's already really excited about it, but those who aren't, and you see some copies in your LCS on Wednesday, you should snag it. Because it's also, you said 6+ issues.
Oh yeah, but I mean it's a true ongoing.
Oh, that's
it's gonna keep going, right?
We're working on issue 5 right now, but perfect. Like the villain, Blacktop Bill, he plays a big, like basically the first arc kind of sets up the world. And
you said it. I'm so excited about that character.
Yeah, the second the way we're gonna do it is like so Tony can stay on the book. We're gonna do the first 6 issues, and then we're gonna do right after, no break. We might take a month for the trade because Image has been doing that a lot lately, where the trade comes on as the sole thing that month. Yeah, and then everybody, hopefully reads, that wants to jump on the series gets a chance to read the trade and then go to the.
They can go right into it.
Right, but after that, we're going to do a 2 to 3 issue arc that's all about his backstory, and then we're going to do the second arc in the present again, catching up with our characters. So
cool.
There's a lot. It's already planned through issues like 11, 12, 13, which is more than That's about as much as I've ever planned on anything, at a time. Until once you get past that, then you plan. I mean, I have the end of the series too in my head, but I'm not sure again if that's going to be 30 or 50 or what. But it depends on how people respond to it as well. But yeah,
Blacktop Bill was a character where I don't usually think too much. Literally, the first time you see him, I had like 3 theories about him that immediately got squashed like 2 pages later. But I'm really excited about it.
He's a lot of fun. Yeah, he's got, and Tony is like a double threat. I mean, because he's a writer and an artist, so he's great because he helps with so many ideas as well, as does Greg and so many other people I love working with, But it's fun because Blacktop Bill, I went to him and I was like, a lot of the series again is about embracing all the stuff that you loved as a kid and making it making it more mature and layered and emotional and the stuff that you can enjoy as an adult, but still has that in its DNA, that fun element. That kind of like, this is crazy, but it's like, I mean, it's a book about darkness that changed everything into monsters, so, and truckers. So there you go. It's like, his backstory is like that. It has like a very kind of one of those templates, one of those kind of, kind of archetypes where you're like, oh, for me, I was like, I've always loved these kinds of stories. Let's do that. So he's got a lot of legs on him as a character. And then, so Tony's committed to doing this solely, for another arc after this. And we're going to try that format again, do a few issues in between, see where we are for arc 3. And, if he's ready to do it, and just keep going. But I want this to be like I really want this to be a pillar that helps hold up, the stuff that I want to do at Best Jacket, not just financially, but as a thing that people can come to and find and enjoy as a really big kind of marquee entry point, and then find everything we're doing, off the main trunk that way too. Not that there'll be a lot of other books that I think will get a lot of noise themselves, just on their own. That are exciting, but I want to always be there as a kind of like super highway,
And it makes sense too, because I mean, like there's so much there. It's a dense book, so it's one of those that you get the trade for and you hand off to your friend, like, oh, you haven't read this, you want to get into Best Jacket, check this out. Like you can easily hand it over, and this like I don't know too many people that I wouldn't recommend this to, because
Thanks.
It's like a good action movie. It's like it's Die Hard, where it's like, I'm not gonna let my 14-year-old kid watch Eyes Wide Shut with me. That's an R-rated movie. Nope, not sharing in that. Whatever. Die Hard though, R-rated. Let's do this. So it'd be, unless you're super young, I would give this I can already tell from this theme and this feel and all of that, it's going to be a trade that you just hand off to somebody.
That's the fun, and that's what we're, the thing I really enjoy. My favorite writers, honestly, like James Tynan, who is like, I think, the best writer on the shelves right now, who I adore. And he's like my little brother. There is not a day, I'm talking to him right after this, so there's not like a day that goes by that I don't talk to that guy.
Can you tell him I said hi?
Yeah, can you say the burrito?
Tell him we said hi.
He might bandanas from him once.
He's the best. And I can't say enough good things about all the stuff he has planned on Batman and all the stuff, because we tell each other everything.
Oh, that makes sense. You're in the know.
Oh, I know. Like, I know the next whole year plus, and it's really good, really, really good, and really good the way all Gotham is going to be working together. In terms of, he's a great leader for that group with Ben Abernathy, in terms of really bringing people, I think, meaty stuff that they can use or not use, and at the moments when the books should link up, they can link up in ways that are organic. And it was fun because he always was my wingman when I was doing that in Batman, and helped me with everything from Owls to Eternal to to Metal. I mean, he and Josh were my guys on Metal all the time. So and Josh has some really great stuff too. But where was I going with him again in this story? I totally forgot what I was saying.
I don't know, but I loved it. I don't know where it came from, but I'm good with it.
I was saying it was something about my favorite writers, because I was like, oh, my favorite writer right now is James, but
best on the shelf is James Tynan, which came from a thing that was said.
Yeah, what were we saying when it was Blacktop Bill, and then it was like building.
I said I talked about Eyes Wide Shut and Die Hard.
Yeah, I remember what I was going to say. I was going to say that my favorite writers on the stands have, and this is not knocking people that aren't like this, but have always been the ones that really surprise you in terms of what they're capable of format-wise, while still remaining true to core, like Stephen King, like comic-wise, like Jason Aaron, like Jeff Lemire. There's so many people I love, like James now, 1,000,000%, who show you that they can do, and the bombast and the big over-the-top fun, kind of all-enveloping widescreen epics, and then they show you that they can do something like Wind or Department of Truth, or but those things have a lot of the same elements of the issues they're exploring. For me, some of the skeleton keys to what I do are not that hard to find, in terms of writing about, I think, our innate nature being something that is often dark and predatory and solipsistic, and the ways in which we're inspired to either rise above that nature or give into it by heroes and villains, and what tempts us and what doesn't. So Batman Who Laughs talks to that degree. Luthor in Justice League came in a different way, and in Last Night, and in Nocterra, there's elements of that too. But my hope is you can read something like Witches or Chain or a couple other books that I'm doing. They're really different. One, without saying who it's with or any of that stuff, is strict historical fiction, like no monsters, no horror, anything.
That's cool.
Yeah, really fun.
Neat.
And another one is part prose, so there's all this different stuff, but the idea is, my hope is you can always tell it's me by the kinds of things that I want to explore and the different degrees to which I'm doing it in different ways, but that it's surprising to you in terms of the way that those things are expressed with these great partners that surprise, that come from left field. So those are my favorites, and that's what I love the most. Nothing against people that write, kind of dig into one vein and mine that vein a certain way. I love that too. I gravitate towards people that you pick up and you're like, I did not expect that from them.
Mm-hmm.
But that makes sense when I look back on it that way.
Yeah, it's like being adventurous versus the cozy blanket. They're both fine. You could be a homebody, and that's a perfect way to live. Like, be where you're comfortable and do that as well as possible, or like go out and branch out and go crazy. Like, see what you can experience and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're viable. I do want to throw out a few things because we've got a lot.
Yeah,
of
I forgot. I should hop off pretty soon. So ask me anything.
No, that's why I want to. I want to just
do it.
Lawson Comics. They're also Court of Owls is their favorite thing. Is their favorite, which
Makes
is
sense. Yeah.
Yep. Checking out. It's also All Purpose Trev's. That's Trevor from Anheuser Designs. It was his first digital experience, which is
Trevor also had a previous comment that Nocterra is his first pull.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
He's just getting back into comics, and so this is the first time he's starting with issue 1.
Thank you.
And really, going through. So he's very excited for Wednesday. Yeah.
I can't tell you how much that means. I really am very grateful, Trevor. So thank you.
And then, yes, I did talk about with Scott Snyder. It's on my bucket list, so I'm all set.
Yes. That movie, I saw it in the theater forever ago, and I barely remember it.
Oh, yeah, I've seen it once, but it's a good reference when you need it.
It brings.
It's not a movie you want to like watch a bunch of times.
Nope.
Yes.
Nope. And then Aaron from Aaron's Comic Room says hi, and you're her favorite Batman writer.
Oh, thank you so much, Aaron. I really appreciate that. I definitely, again, like, I always feel like it's funny because I'm like, oh, I can't
yeah
back to it, but I want to go back to it one day, but I don't know if I can.
And that's fair. And then what do you think about Nick's hat? That's important.
I like it. I like it. It had Indiana Jones feel. It spoke to when we're talking fun, big genre stuff, especially with the fish tank behind you. It gives you that, it has that kind of explorer, you know what I mean? It's got that, like, yes.
I like it. Did you read Adventure Man at all? I think it's got an Adventure Man feel. Like, the old school adventure comics. It was alluded to like 1,000 times, and I feel like our burrito people will be upset if we don't. We do a customary pants check during live streams because we started in the pandemic a pants check where they make sure we have pants on. So
I have pants.
Pants.
So there you go.
There it is.
There it is.
Thank you.
Scott Snyder, pants check.
Got the pants check. People were like, they're not going to do it. They won't do it with Scott Snyder.
I'm fancy. I am. I actually, we had an appointment in the city today for our kid when he was 6 months old. He needed a craniotomy it was crazy, but he's all good now. But we still have to take him in to get checked up now and then. Mm-hmm. Just to make sure nothing is going wrong, and or the baby. So I wore jeans, and he was so weirded out because I'm so like during the pandemic, I got so used to just wearing sweatpants everywhere and my pajamas all day and that stuff because I work in my studio, but the house is right there, so it's like, so he was like, what that? And I'm like, these are jeans. These are other pants. You know what I mean? He's like, what that? I'm wearing like a collared shirt going in. What that? And it was like, to him, it's like, and my 9-year-old was funny. He's just like, he's like, that's Dada. He's dressed up to go into the city. I'm like, God, this is just dressed. And I'm not that long that like, jeans and this is like, to them it's like a tuxedo. Yeah,
you're like going to like 5-star restaurant. You're just getting fancy with your jeans and button up.
I know it. So pants.
And then we've got our last and most important question that we
ask everyone that's on this, and your answer matters.
Okay.
What is your perfect burrito?
Oh man, well we get them a lot. I mean, my burrito. I mean, out here we have a couple good places, but I always just have. I get chicken. I have high cholesterol in my family, so I try to be as healthy as possible. So I get like chicken, salsa, cilantro, black beans, yellow rice, no cheese, because again, I'm getting older, can't handle the. I have to try and stay fit for this.
But ideally, your burrito, you would have one if you could. Like,
I would have
just having one.
Oh, like my dream.
Yeah, this is like
dream burrito.
Well, this is what I get normally. But I'm like, that's because we have a 1-year-old, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to like live.
Make it. Yeah.
Our kid was 9. I was like, and then because we tried to have a third kid for a while, and then we really just were like, oh, we're never going to happen. And so we were fine with it. And then it was done. And then lo and behold, we had Quinn. Yeah. And so the spread for our kids is 14, 9, and 1. And I'm like, this 1-year-old dude, he's going to graduate high school in 2037. So I'm like, I have to be.
Is that a year?
You know,
I've
what I mean?
never even thought of when my daughter is going to graduate, and that thought just scared me.
We better go to those graduations in a flying car of some kind. There's no justice in the world. But so I'm trying to be healthier, drink less, work out more, whatever.
So what's in your dream burrito then? If you're
my dream burrito would be
last burrito, there's no worrying about it. You're just going for it.
It's 2037 and you're making a burrito.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, my job here is done.
You're all set now.
If it comes with like Don Julio 1942 tequila as well nice. On the side, but it's I would say steak. What kind of cheese? God, I haven't even had. Probably steak, jack, salsa with extra. I love cilantro. Mm-hmm. Still yellow rice, black beans. I love yellow rice, black beans, and what am I not thinking of that would be in there?
A hot sauce,
sour cream.
Yeah, sour cream. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, guac. Yeah, of course, dude. Yeah, that I get anyway now. I get guac anyway now. But yeah, so guac, sour cream. Yeah, that's kind of getting there.
Spicy or not spicy?
I can't. I get like middle. I still again like
just a little kick, but nothing crazy.
Yeah, nothing crazy. My kid puts hot sauce. My 14-year-old is like, just shove it in my face. He puts like hot sauce. Yeah. Fucking everything from like literally like everything. He puts it on.
He like stares you down while he's
he's got his thing going on. He's funny. He's right at the age where he's like, there's like the push and pull with dad of like, the kind of like, you're uncool dad and you want to drop me off and but whatever. And then there's still a kid that's like, Dad, can we watch him? We've been watching movies together every Friday and Saturday because he can stay up later. And his school is remote. My other kid he's mostly remote. My other kid is in school. Yeah. So he, doesn't have to technically wake up as early. So we watch. That's where we've been going through the AFI 100 Greatest Films and adding some stuff to it. We watched like The Town, Hell and High Water.
Oh, The Town.
Nice. That movie's good. Yeah, but my 9-year-old, I remembered one thing I was going to say about that I forgot before. So this Friday, I'm recording Logan on FX because the cable, they put out
it's edited.
Yeah, nice. So I'm going to watch it. I'm going to just double check that it's not like a special red band.
Yeah, you get into it.
Yeah, TV can be crazy sometimes.
He's a very sensitive kid. He's like my 14-year-old is like my kid that's like he's like, let's go ziplining. And you know what I mean? Like he's that kid. And he's like he's almost like too kind of grounded about everything where you have to like kick him to be like, hey, it's, like, because things come easy to him. So I'm like, you have to push him. Yeah. Whereas my 9-year-old is so much like I was, where he's like, he's such a he's such a wonderful, empathetic kid, but he's also he's so nervous about getting things wrong that you have to do. It's the opposite. You have to like push him to do them because he's nervous. Where my other one is like not nervous enough. So it's very funny. Like the 9-year-old though, getting into this will be his very first. Like he has not seen an R movie or anything like that. He is not, but he loves the X-Men. He loved all the movies. And it's so funny because revisiting them too, and then I'll shut up and go. But even revisiting them, like even the ones that I didn't see, like I never saw like Apocalypse because it didn't get the best reviews and that stuff. That's not bad at all. That's not a bad movie. I really enjoyed that movie. And
fun.
People expect way too much of movies these days. It's like if the movie isn't the best movie they've ever seen in their life, then they just hate it so much, and it's like people forgot how to enjoy things or something.
I think
don't know.
the streaming wars and all the stuff that have allowed us to be so much more subjective in our viewing, and also like created so much more content and raised the bar on content. I mean, when you think about it, like, and I'm obviously like I'm experiencing this with, as are all like indie creators right now, where things get optioned so much more quickly because there's such a demand for content. But you see it, whereas like when we were growing up, there were only so many slots that needed to be good. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of Prices Right and a lot of Wheel of Fortune and whatever during the day. You needed like 8 to 10 p.m. be whatever. But now you need hundreds and hundreds of good things all the time because people binge it and it's over. And there's just, everybody wants stuff. So with them, it's interesting because it's almost like the quality is way up in terms of what they look for, but they're also like much cooler about just finding something they like. And they're just like, this was good. I liked it. It's cool. As opposed to being like, it has to be great, or it has to be, it's awful. There's a much more of a middle ground with them. It's like, they expect more, but they demand less in a way. But then when they see something great, they're very aware of it being, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, I should run. I should get back.
Well, yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. No, I love doing it. We got to do it again sometime soon. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks.
Can't wait for Nocterra and
Jane.
Everything else you're doing.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Well, let's just stay in touch and do it again when
for sure.
Do it again soon when we have more Nocterra out and stuff.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Thanks for getting with us. I'm Todd.
I'm Cole.
I'm Nick.
Oh, and I'm Scott.
Yeah.
I'm a Burrito, and bye.
Bye. Take care, guys.